Hi, my name is Amy. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to start a mini series of sorts about quotes that I found about kindness or perspective. And today I'm going to do the one that says, if you can't be kind, be quiet. I think that's a good one. But first I'm going to show you how I typically will come up with my outline, so to say, of what I would like to do. So like I said, I have as a whiteboard or a dry erase board and a dry erase marker. I'm going to use this to jot out my general idea. First, I would start off with writing out the quote. So I'm going to write out, if you can't be kind, be quiet. Pretty straightforward. So what I would do next is kind of go through my words and decide which ones out of this quote are most important or that I want to emphasize. And I'm going to put rectangles around it. So I know kind and quiet are going to be my most important words of this quote. After that, I would decide if there's anything that can be grouped together or anything that should stand alone, any words that belong to other words, so to say, like be belongs to kind and this be belongs to quiet. So I know I want to keep those together. So I'm just going to underline them and arrow them to that one. And then I think what I'll do is I will group together if you can't. So I'm going to just put a little circle around it. And that is pretty much the basis of what I know I want to do. At this point, I would probably take a picture of my whiteboard with my phone and just keep it by for reference and then go from there. So I'm going to erase it for now. And then what I would do is divide my paper or my, like for instance with this, a board. And I like to do my first sketch on a board and then I will take it to paper with a pencil and then I'll ink it. So this is the first part of my process. I'm going to divide this board in half, which I would do with paper with a pencil and a very light hand. So I've got it divided in half. Now, I know that I have two words that I want to have emphasized. So to start, I think I'm going to divide these two lines into segments. So it'll make sense in a minute. So I'm going to do kind in a block, probably about 2/3 of the paper. And so, like, again, I would be doing this on paper. I certainly could lay it out on this whiteboard first. So this first block is going to hold my word kind. It's kind of hard to see all of it. Anyhow, and then down here, to make it symmetrical, I want it, to be kind of even. I will go ahead and do the same thing. So the bottom, probably 2/3 or so, we'll say, just for ease, I would draw another block. And this is going to be for quiet, because those are my words that I want to emphasize, right? So then you'll see that I have here, I hope you can see, a section here, and then I also have a section here on the bottom half, okay? So in this first section up on the top half, I know I wanted to group together if you can't, right? So I'm going to go ahead and draw a box to grid out where I would like to write if you can't. Okay, and then this section, it looks like, I remember I have that B word that belongs to kind, and I'm going to have to fit that in here somewhere. So I'm just going to leave this open, and we'll see where we go with that. So I think in general, we have a pretty good outline of where we're going to be. And so I would get started by then, I know I wanted a group of words here. There are 3 words, so I'm going to divide this in equal spaces, roughly. And then I'm going to go ahead and start on those important words, those words I wanted to emphasize. So I wanted to emphasize the word kind here to start. So what I would do is I would write kind, big enough to fill this space. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it's going to be, but again, this is just plotting out how we want to get started to finish it off. Okay, and then here's my other emphasis word. This is going to be quiet. Okay, and then I had those groups of words, or that group of words, those 3 words here, and it was if you can't. So we have if you can't, kind, quiet. Now we need those B's, right? So like I said, I know that this one B belongs here, one B belongs here. It seems simple, but you can get caught up in this, and before you know it, you'll finish a project and you'll be missing words. So I'm going to turn this whole entire picture sideways, and I'm going to write B in this direction. And I have these 2 center lines, and since these are all lined up, I can use these as my guidelines for where I want to write that word. And do I want to do it in print or cursive? I don't know, but I think I'll start like that, and then like that. So if you can't be kind, let's see, I'm gonna turn this back around, and then I think I want to center the other one right along quiet, so we'll do B there. Okay, so I think that calls it pretty much. I've got a good layout, and if you can see it here, I'm gonna move my camera so you can see that this is what it looks like. Now I have this empty space over here. Typically what I would do with an empty space like that is I would fill it with something like a heart or a star or a spiral or a flower or something like that. And then you can see I have a few letters like the I in quiet and the I in kind. Whatever I would draw in that empty space, and this is just to me, I would use that as, you know, something that I would do to dot my eyes, so to say. So since I did a heart, I'm going to dot my eyes with a heart. And the same thing up here. And it just kind of ties it together. So yeah, that's general outline of how I go about plotting something out like this. So I'll be right back with some paper and a pencil, and I'll draw it for you. Okay, so just to save some time, I went ahead and drew it out in pencil. So my lines are a little bit dark, but that's okay. You can write yours a little bit lighter if you'd like. I draw and redraw and draw and redraw. So here we go. I have that all done, and now I've got my vine tip Sharpie pen, and I'm going to go ahead and ink over the lines, and then I'll erase all of my pencil lines. So I'll get started. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and go back in and erase all these lines. So I've got guidelines, I've got lines that I've resketched, I've got things that I changed my mind about along the way while I was inking. Another thing that I wanted to tell you is that during this whole process, like I like to just kind of think about what kind of scripts I'm going to do, what kind of prints I'm going to do, just different fonts. And a good way to get an idea for what kind of font you would like to do is I like to go onto Dafont, DAFONT.com, and just look at the different fonts, study them a little bit, maybe try to draw a few of those letters in different fonts, and just it helps me get my mind out of a mindset that is my typical norm. Normally probably this and this is probably the closest to my natural mindset when I come to draw or write something. I mean, if you get something that's handwritten from me, which is often because I handwrite things all the time, and I'm a nurse, so I do a lot of charting, you're gonna get it pretty much written out something like this. And that's just my typical go-to handwriting. So when I want to kind of break out of that norm for myself, I'll go to this website and just kind of study some of the other fonts just to train my hand and my mind in a different direction just for a little bit, just so I can add interest to pieces like this. So I'm going to finish erasing this and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have all of my lines erased. At this point, I would like to just go in and kind of fix some spots that don't look quite perfect once those pencil lines are gone. Like my doodle in this K, it really needs some straightening out and thickening up some of those letters. Like here, I had a spot that when I went over it, I doubled the line. So what I like to do just to add some uniformity to the entire drawing is to go through and just using my Sharpie, just thicken up some of these lines. So I'm going to start here just because to me this is a real eyesore, and I mean, it's probably not that big of a deal. I just typically like to thicken the lines up. So as you'll see here, I'm just going to slowly go through and even spaces out. So sometimes that means drawing a line and filling it in. Other times that just means kind of going over it a time or two. And a lot of times when I'm coming around a curve like this one, I like it to taper into a thinner line anyhow, so I'm not looking for total uniformity as far as thickness of lines go. And again, since these are a variety of different kind of writing techniques or fonts, if you will, then they're not going to be just the same as the next one anyhow. And you add some stylishness to that as well as just some creative freedom for a few mistakes. So here you'll see I'm just going to go around this curve and I'm going to leave this side just a little bit thinner and thicken this other side up. And where things cross, I typically try to keep those cross hatches the same. So I'm just going to finish this up like that. Fill those spaces in. So that E already looks a lot better. My doodle looks better. I just think, I don't know, there's something about having just the tiniest little bit of mistake and it just kind of throws the entire thing off. So I'm going to go through here and finish up the rest of those areas that I think need a little bit of attention. And I'll be right back. So here you can see it is finished, finally. At this point you could add some color if you wanted. You could do some shading. I kind of like just the bold black and white. You can see there's a couple of areas that are a little thicker than I'd like this Y for instance, but that's okay. I think it adds to the uniqueness of a handwritten piece. So I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough tutorial of sorts, and I hope you can use some of the tips and tricks that I gave you to help you in your creative endeavors. If you have any tips or tricks for me, I'd love to hear them. Please leave comments below, and if you'd like to see what else I've got coming, hit that subscribe button. Thanks again. Bye.